Om Dhyayamo Dhavalabhagundhanavatim Tejomayim Nashtikim Snigdha Pangavilokinim Bhagavatim Mandasmidashrimukhim Valsalyamritavarshinim Sumadhuram Sankirtanalapinim Shamangi Madhusekta Suktim Amridanandatmikam Ishwarim Om Amriteshwariyai Namah Om Amriteshwariyai Namah Om Amriteshwariyai Namah. Since we are having the Karthika celebrations right after this, so we'll just have a very short meditation. Kindly sit straight and just make sure your vertebral column is straight and sit as comfortable as you can. Slowly close your eyes. Try to focus your awareness on your breathing. Breathing normally, but just fully aware of each and every inhalation. And continue like this for some time. Now we'll chant Om 3 times, and as we chant Om, imagine the sound of Om rising from your navel area. Now can you take a deep breath? Bring your awareness back to your breathing normally. And now when you breathe in, chant the mantra Ma silently along with your in-breath. Hold your breath for a few seconds. Don't hold it too long. And then when you breathe out, chant Om. So it's Ma when you breathe in and Om when you breathe out. And continue for some time like that. Now feel the vibrations of Ma and Om becoming more and more subtle. And you can just feel Ma and Om when you breathe in and out. And feel your heart expanding and filling with love and with light. Now we'll end with a prayer for the world peace, for the well-being of all the beings in this world. Let's chant Loka Samasta 9 times. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. 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 Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Om Akandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Narayanam Padma Bhuvam Vasishtam Shaktim Chatatputram Parasharam Vyasam Shugam Gaudapadam Mahandam Yugovinda Yogindram Adhasya Shishyam Sri Shankaracharyam Adhasya Padmapadam Cha Hastamalakam Cha Shishyam Tam Todakam Vartikakaryamannyan Asmat Gurun Sandadamanadosmi. Om Amriteshwariyai Namaha. Om Amriteshwariyai Namaha. Om Amriteshwariyai Namaha. In the previous session, we had seen that King Jadabharata, Yogi Jadabharata, was carrying the palanquin of the king, Raha Guna. And what happened was, as you can see, he got Rahugana was very angry for the palanquin was Rahugana is the name of the king. And so he got so angry, and that he was scolding the soldiers who were carrying, and then they blamed it on Jadabharata. And Jadabharata was telling Kapila that, telling Rahu Gana that he was giving some deep philosophical insights. So the beauty about Srimad Bhagavatam is that in between all these stories, there is this beautiful diamonds of Vedanta inside that. And so it goes into a Vedantic discussion sometimes. And here also we can see that between Rahugana and between Jadabharata, there is a Vedantic discussion going on. And Jadabharata was saying that, when you say that when you are ridiculing me, he's saying that, or the person who's carrying, the relevance provided there is that's called something called weight for one to bear, provided there is a destination for the traveler to reach, and provided there is a corpulence for the jiva to be carried. So he's saying that wise men do not assent to such a proposition because the weight of the body, distance, everything is Maya and effects of the Maya, and so it's false. It's all you're dreaming about all these things. And so he's saying that only all this affects a person who is in Maya, but a person who has realized the Atman, it does not touch them. And he's saying that with the change of the fortune, the master can become the servant and the servant can become the master. So what is the distinction between a master and a servant? And he was also saying that the body, in one sense he was saying that the body was will be like a powdered stuff. It's already like a powdered stuff beaten up by karma of the Maya. So if you powder a powder, then what is the problem? There is nothing, nothing is going to happen. So anyway, your punishment is not going to make any change. So hearing this, Rahugana got down and understood that this person who was carrying him was not an ordinary person. So that's why he got down from his palanquin and asked, are you the great sage Kapila himself who's come in front of me? Because as you know, the Maharshis, the sages can take any form they want. And so he is saying that that I do not fear the thunderbolt of Indra, nor the trident of Rudra, and weapons of any of the divinities, but only one thing is insulting. And a great and holy person is what is considered to be the worst sin of all. And so please tell who you are. So he's saying, I'm on my way to meet the Muni Kapila and to hear his satsang. And so he was saying that in criticism of the denial of exhaustion, he was saying that the body does not have any exhaustion or the body, only for a person who is steeped in Maya. There is the body, there is karma and all these things. But he said by doing various administrative and military duties, the king said, Rahugana said, I really feel tired. I can guess that you will also feel exhausted by walking, carrying a load. And so he says to deny it will be like denying the existence of pots with which watering is done. And he is also saying, in cooking, when the heat is applied to the pot, it penetrates into the water. If there is water and you are cooking rice, so what happens? Or grains, any kind of grains. So there is water inside the pot and the grains. So when you apply the heat, first the heat goes into the water. And then when the water boils, then it is transferred to the grain also, and the grain is cooked. So he's saying, whatever experience the body goes through, it passes on through the inner layers to the senses, the pranas and the mind, and then to the Atman. So the experience by the Atman of the world, of the five senses, has to be accepted as real. And also he was saying that, when you criticized, when you came up with this criticism of the master and servant relationship, you said, it is very temporal and artificial, but I am a king now, right? And I have a ruler and I have a certain dharma to do. So if I don't do my dharma and I say, I am not a king, then, a ruler is only carrying out the will of the God. So how can you say that? He's discharging his duties, his dharma. And also to the objection of the pounding of the already pounded or the powdered stuff does not apply to the king, because if the king says, from tomorrow onwards I won't punish anybody, what will happen? The whole, in the kingdom will go into dogs and everybody will start doing adharma. So he said this as an argument for all the reasons earlier said by Jadabharata. So Jadabharata said, you try to speak like a man of great knowledge, but you are not. You don't understand anything. So this is what happens when we go to Amma, right? We try to impress Amma and say, it's not like this, Amma. When Amma says something, it's not like that. It's, I know better than you, but you don't say that, but it should be like this. So you try to correct Amma. So you pretend to have so much knowledge than Amma, and then when you tell Amma, and finally what happens is whatever Amma tells comes into fruition, then you feel like a fool. But at that time, the ego is so strong that you try to impress upon Amma that whatever you are saying is correct. So he was saying, you are a fool. That's just in one word, you are a stupid fool. So because, the Vedic teaching, even the Vedic teaching, dealing with karma is a falsity. And all these rituals and the passages dealing with the rituals for the householder's life, and it's totally not relevant to a great person who has achieved self-realization. So you're saying that a person who is not able to grasp the phenomenality and the worthlessness of the happiness of waking life, it's like saying, I saw a snake running to me in my dream, and saying that when I woke up, the snake is still following me. How can the snake follow you when you're awake? So your arguments are like that. It's so stupid. So he says, as long as a man's mind is dominated by any of the three gunas of Prakriti, that is nature, which are Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, so long it will be uncontrollable. And it will constantly engage the organs of knowledge and action in producing meritorious and demeritorious works. So he's saying that if the mind is dominated by not just one guna, but all the three gunas, or any of the gunas, this is Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, the mind will be uncontrollable. And so it will, what will it do? It will engage the organs of knowledge and action in producing papa and punya, that is, which is merit and demerit. And I said, the mind is a bundle of tendencies, is the principle of the 16 categories. It is prone to go to sense objects. And the gunas of Prakriti move it here and there, and also shape it into various modes of desire and other passions. And investing the jiva with various forms as devas, men, animals, etc., it generates all these differences of high and low based on this form. So it's very interesting to understand this. So this mind is what is a bundle of tendencies, and is the principle of the 16 categories. What are the 16? We will see the categories later. But the 16, they're saying the 16 categories is the 5 sense organs of our experience or knowledge. So which is comes from the sattvic component of the 5 elements, which are the ears, skin, touch, tongue, and nose. And then the rajasic component, that is the organs of action, which are of the 5 different actions. One is the vak, that is the word or the language, pani, that is hands, feet, anus, and the genitals. And then the 5 airs of life, that is the pancha pranas. So they all, and then the mind. Then so 5 plus 5 plus 5, 15, and then plus 1, 16 is the one that slowly, he's saying that the 3 gunas, mind is a bundle of the 16 categories. So it's prone to sense objects. Do you have any doubt? When you sit down to meditate, what happens? You're saying you're having such a peaceful moment, your eyes are closed, and suddenly you hear the phone, your cell phone ringing. Or, some noise in the kitchen, right? So suddenly what happens? If your eyes are closed, your mind is peaceful, and when you hear the sound, jumps. And the ears jump to the sound. And then the mind starts working, right? And says, oh, somebody is calling me. They are going to commit suicide. And if I don't answer right now, they will lose their life. Or, I forgot to turn off the stove. So that's why there is a sound in the kitchen. So all these things come along with that association. So the mind is always restless. So it associates with the sense objects and the senses, and it goes along like that. So he says that's how it goes into various modes of desire and other passions. And not only that, what happens? It actually makes a difference between people. Like when we say the caste system. The caste system that is prevalent in India, that is the Brahmins, Vaishyas, Shudras, and the Kshatriyas, the 4 categories. So actually the mind is making more categories than that. So they're saying they are making
we make other people into devas. Devas means demigods, men, animals. So all this we term them like he's a pig or he's a dog, right? And we tell all these things. So we categorize them into high and low, and sometimes we say, "Oh, he's such a great person. He's such a good person." So you put them in a higher pedestal. So the mind is always doing this, and sometimes making them low also based on the forms. And he says the mind has been created by Maya as the manifesting field of the Atman. So you have to understand when we say Maya here, it's illusion, but we can say the Maya means ignorance. Ignorance of one's own self. So it is the entity responsible for keeping the jiva in the transmigratory cycle. For holding the Atman in close embrace, it brings on him enjoyment, suffering, and infatuation in accordance with the inevitable process of time. And so long as there is ignorance, this world of practical life, with its gross and subtle conditions consisting of waking, dream, and sleep state, persists as an object of experience before the embodied being. Therefore, the mind is said to be the cause of the jiva's bondage and his liberation from the gunas and also from his birth in high and low situations. So he says the Maya, the mind which has been created from Maya, that is ignorance of one's own self, is responsible for keeping the individual soul or the jiva in the transmigratory cycle. That is birth, death, birth. It goes on like that. Why? Because it's suffering and or it brings on both enjoyment and suffering according to with the process of time. As we go through the process of time, there is suffering or there is enjoyment. And it says, as long as there is ignorance, this world of practical life, consisting of waking, dream, and sleep states, persists as an object of experience before the embodied being. So, these three, when we have these three states also, when we go through these three different states, there is also the experiences of time. And so, he says that therefore, the mind is said to be the cause of the jiva's bondage and his liberation from the gunas, and also for his birth in high and low situations. So what is the whole reason? As they say, Mane eva karananam manishyanam bandhamokshayoho. That is, mind alone is the reason for a person to gain his freedom or bondage. So it is the mind which is creating all these things. So this is what Jadabharata says to Rahugana. And he says the mind that is attached to sense objects causes miseries. And when it is free from such attachments, it leads to liberation. A wick light in contact with the ghee gives light and smoke. Otherwise, it remains in its pristine condition. So also the mind caught up amidst sense objects and action take the form of vrittis or modes. When it is not so modified, it dwells in truth. So what is actually the mind? Or no mind, we can say. When the mind ceases, it is the supreme consciousness only. How do we know? We always experience this during every night or whenever we sleep in a deep sleep state, right? Why? Because there is no no sorrow, no happiness, no I, no you. So where are we when we are in deep sleep state? We are dwelling in the supreme consciousness only. So he's saying that when the mind is attached to the sense objects, so only when we wake up, then suddenly, all these objects start appearing. So he's saying that such attachments brings bondage, and the freedom from such attachments leads to liberation. And he's giving the example of the wick of the light lamp. So only when it is in contact with ghee, it gives light and smoke, right? So when there is fire, there is ghee, then only, and the wick, then it gives light and smoke. Otherwise, there is nothing. It just remains, is just in its pristine condition. So also the mind, only when it is amidst sense objects and actions takes place in the form of modes. So when it is not so, it always dwells in the truth. That is in the no mind state. And the modes, the vrittis of the mind are said to be 11. These being 5 in the form of actions, 5 of the knowledge, and 1 in the form of I sense. The 5, so he's saying 11, here he's saying, talking about 11 modes. As I earlier said 16, here he's talking about 11, condensing it. And he's saying the 5 organs of action, so become the basis of active modes. So you remember what the 5 senses, organs of action are, which is the vak, right? That is language or the tongue, hands, that is pani, feet, then anus and genitals. These are the 5 organs of action. And the 5 organs of knowledge. So that is the ear, nose, eyes, touch, and mouth. So these are the 5 organs of knowledge. And plus the I sense. So 5 plus 5, 10 plus 1, the I sense. So the 11 modes for the functioning of the mind are the 5 organs of knowledge, then, and the 5 organs of action, like the excretion, sex enjoyment, walking, speaking, and handling. The sense of mind is the 11th mode. Some speak of the sense of I with reference to the body, the base in which the jiva dwells, as the 12th mode. So he says there is another 12th mode which some speak of, which is the body, in which the jiva is located or homed. And by the influence of factors like nature, purification, unseen forces, and time, these 11 modes of the mind may take 100, 1,000, or a crore. Crore means it's 10 million different shapes. They cannot, however, do so either by themselves or by mutual influence. It is born of the limitless power of the Lord, the Kshetrajna, the Lord as the knower of the field. So he's saying, what happens with the 11 modes of the mind? It can take any, like even up to 10 million 10 million shapes or forms. And so how is it? It is born out of the limitless power of the Lord, who is known as Kshetrajna. Kshetram means temple, so one who is the indweller of the temple. So he is saying, so this is because of the power, the indwelling power of the of the Lord or the Supreme Consciousness. So these movements of the mind caused by the power of Maya, which result in actions that do not in any way contribute to the purification of the mind, appear always in the states of waking and dream and disappear completely in sleep. Kshetrajna, the ever pure and unaffected spirit, merely witnesses these movements of the mind. So he's saying the Kshetrajna, here is the all-pervading spirit, the indweller of all, the cause of all causes, the self-conscious effulgence, the birthless, the God of all divinities, the director of all jivas, the possessor of sixfold excellence, and the supporter of all jivas. So he dwells as controller in all jivas by his Maya. So he's saying the movements of the mind is caused by the power of Maya. And so what happens, it contributes to the, however, these actions, whatever happens of Maya does not contribute to the purification of the mind. And it appears always in the states of waking and dream and disappears completely in sleep. And then, so Kshetrajna, the indweller, is always only a mere witness of the mind, right? So in one of the Upanishads, they talk about the two birds. There is one bird who is sitting up, and he's always watching the bird that is below him, and the bird that goes finds food to eat, does all the things, and then comes back and sits on the branch. Whereas there's one bird that is watching all the time. And so what happens is, this is what is the Kshetrajna, the Supreme Consciousness, the all-pervading spirit, the indweller of all. He's saying all these things. Is birthless, is the God of all divinities, the director of all jivas, and the possessor of the sixfold excellence. So what are the sixfold of excellence here? So, according to the scriptures, the Lord or the Supreme Consciousness has, when you take it as Ishvara or God, when you formalize it, but not the formless aspect, but the one with the form. It says it has jnana, and that is omniscience, because it has the power to know about all beings simultaneously. Then Aishwarya, that is sovereignty, and which consists of an unchallenged rule overall. Then Shakti, energy, and the power to make the impossible possible. Then Bala, which is strength, and to do everything by will without any fatigue. And we know that. Who has that? Who sits for hours together and who does not feel any tiredness. Then Virya, valor, with the power to remain immateriality as the supreme being in spite of being the material causes of all the creation. And the last one is the tejas or splendor, which expresses and the capacity to overpower everything by the spiritual effulgence. So these are the six fold excellence as notated by here by Jadabharata. The other one, also a few of other ones are also added. Shri is almost the same as Aishwarya, and Dharma, righteousness, there's also there, and Yashas and Vairagya, those two are also sometimes added onto this. So he dwells as the controller in all jivas by his Maya. So just as the vital energy permeates everything, moving and unmoving, and controls them from within, in the same way the Supreme Lord Vasudeva, the Kshetrajna, permeates and controls all beings. So when we say that when we do things, how do we do things? We have to do energy. We have to have that energy, right, to do things. Sometimes we say, oh, I don't have any energy today. And what do? Just sit there. So what is that energy? Where does that energy come to do? Perform your actions, to do things. And the energy that gives the mind the ability to think and to move forward. Suppose somebody is depressed and they say, I don't want to do anything. And where does that energy go? So it's not being manifested. So he's saying that energy that permeates all jivas, all the living beings, is what is the vital energy that is being controlled by the Kshetrajna. And the jiva is that the individual soul is bound to move about in this transmigratory existence so long as he does not realize himself to be the Atman through enlightenment. So what does the jiva do? Jiva has to just go through birth, death, birth, again and again, until the jiva realizes that the jiva is nothing but the Atman, or the Supreme Conscious alone. For this he has, O King, first of all, to become non-attached through the discharge of all his duties as offerings to the Lord, and to control his 6 enemies constituted of the 6 infirmities, which is lust, anger, greed, intense longings, pride, and jealousy. So he's saying he has to first, what he has to do? He has to discharge all his duties as offerings to the Lord. So do everything what you do as seva to Guru, to the Lord, to Amma. And then what happens? To control his 6 enemies. So which are lust, anger, greed, intense longing, which is desire, pride, and jealousy. So these 6 things have to be controlled. And the mind, which functions as the limiting adjunct of the spirit, is the veritable field yielding a bumper harvest of the ills of transmigratory life. Until one understands this, one will be involved in the transmigratory cycle. The mind generates sorrow, suffering, infatuation, diseases, attachments, desires, enmity, and the sense of possession regarding objects. So he's saying that unless and until we understand that we are not the mind, then all these things we have to go through the transmigratory cycle. And not only that, the mind is generating all these things like suffering, infatuation, diseases, attachments, desires, enmity, and sense of possession. So how do we know that? How do we know the mind is doing this? See, when, again, one of the proof is when in the state of deep sleep state, we don't have any sorrow. We don't have happiness. We don't have infatuation. We have no problem. Actually, we are trying to move away from all the problems by sleeping. And if somebody can sleep forever, they would have been sleeping forever. But the problem is we wake up. And so, what happens is that when the mind, why? Because the mind is completely absent there. That's why its peace is there. So he says the mind is like a strong enemy, grown very powerful because of negligence. It may ultimately be a mere appearance, but it has nonetheless hidden the Atman from view. Kill him with the arrow of service to the feet of Sri Hari, the teacher who gives enlightenment. Be extremely vigilant in this matter. So he's saying, no, what are we doing? We are sleeping with our own enemy every night, right? So when we go to sleep, what happens? The mind is there, but it disappears for some time. When we wake up, suddenly jumps up and catches on to us. So he's saying that's the greatest enemy. And why it has grown powerful? Because you put fertilizer for it. You fed it. You fed it with attachments, you fed it with enmity, with desires for objects, and suffering and infatuation and diseases. So it has created all these things. So how can you kill it? He says, kill it with the arrow of service to the feet of the Sri Hari, the teacher who gives enlightenment. So the only way to do it is by doing seva to a great master. Sri Hari means he can mean as an enlightened master here. So a teacher who gives enlightenment. So only an enlightened master can give enlightenment to another person. So without which, just an ordinary teacher will not be able to do that. So he's saying by doing seva to the enlightened master, you can certainly kill the mind. So here, I'm remembering a story which I had said a long time ago of Sant Kabir, the sage Kabir. And Kabir was a great enlightened sage. And one day the king of Kashi, that is Varanasi, when he met Kabir, he became so much attracted towards Kabir that he left his kingdom and he left everything and then became a disciple of Kabir. And when such a disciple comes, naturally what happens? He has so much ego, puffed up ego, arrogance, pride, and you name anything, everything is there. I mean, even if you are not a king, all these things are present. Then what to talk about being a king? So usually what happens, just like in my case also, when you go with so much of ego and pride, first when I went to the ashram, I was the only person who had a master's degree at that time. The Swamis did not have a master's degree. So I was puffed up with arrogance, saying that I am the greatest one who has studied so much. And that too, I graduated from a great school, a very well-known school. So I had so much of ego and pride. So knowing this, what did Amma do? First thing she told me was to go and clean the cowshed. Now, of course, I said that story earlier, but it's same thing. What did Kabir do? Kabir asked the king to go and clean all the gutter and do all the menial jobs. Why? Because the pride, the arrogance, the ego has to be beaten up. Just like as I say, there is an expression, beat up the donkey which is not moving or something like that, right? So it has to be beaten up. So Kabir gave him all these menial jobs. And imagine a king who was living in a palace with so much of extravagance, and in his beck and call he had so many people to help him out and do whatever according to his wish, just doing all these menial jobs. And he silently did it for about 12 years. And after 12 years, Kabir's wife felt sorry for him. So one day she went and told Kabir, look at this, your disciple, the king of Kashi. He was a king. Now he's such a menial guy doing all these things. So why can't you give him realization? So Kabir said he is not ready. So just like any other wife who argues with the husband, she argued with Kabir and said, how do you know? So Kabir said, tomorrow morning, you go and do an experiment. Have a bag full of garbage. And he meditates till 8 o'clock in the morning. And as soon as he comes out of his room, you dump the garbage on his head. But do one thing, as soon as you dump it, and before you dump it, you have to hide. Then you push the garbage on his head and then run away. Don't stay there. So she did as she was told. The next morning when the disciple came, feeling very holy and very pious after all his meditation, Kabir's wife came and dumped the garbage on his head. And she ran away. So he could not see who it was by the time he looked up. Suddenly he got angry and he said, who did this? Do you know who I am? I was the king of Kashi. I could have chopped your head in one command. And what did you do to me? Dump garbage on my head? Is this what you do? And he just went on, enraged with so much of anger and having so much negative reactions. So the wife looked at it and went back to Kabir and said, you're right, he's not ready. And 15 years later, one day, Kabir called his wife and said, now he's ready. So wife asked, how do you know? So he said, go and do the same experiment. Dump the garbage on his head. So she took the garbage and she was hiding. Then as soon as he came out of his meditation, dumped the garbage on his head. And when he got up, he looked up and he said, thank you, O Lord, for dumping this garbage on my head. I do not know what would have happened to me. A big boulder must have come and hit me instead of that garbage. And that too, this garbage is not that smelly. So thank you, my God. Thank you so much. So his whole attitude had changed. So that's what seva does. Seva, that's why he's saying, so the importance of seva, that's why he's again and again saying, no, but you have to understand who to do seva to. You just cannot go and do seva to any organization or any person for that matter. So here you have to be intelligent. Because by doing seva, the question is, are you feeding your ego or are you erasing your ego? So that's what he's saying here. By doing seva or by worship or doing all the activities for an enlightened master, you are erasing your ego. So go and do service to an enlightened master. So next question is, how do you know who's an enlightened master or not? So that is, you can find out very easily who is enlightened or who is not enlightened, right? In one sense. And if you, in your heart, the heart will tell you who is enlightened and who is not enlightened. And if you know and you see an enlightened master, you will see the difference. And when you are with a master who is not enlightened, you will naturally have the feeling. Why? Because that you are part of that consciousness. But, Amma goes further to say, even if you do seva, thinking that person to be enlightened, even then there is, actually there is an effect provided you have that full faith that you are doing it to God, to an enlightened master. So even then there is an effect. Even though the master is not enlightened, all you do will not go to waste. And this is exactly what Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also. Like in the name of spirituality, if you take a stone and put it on the other side, in the next birth, there is less karma for you. Because if you do selflessly, and even if it's not an enlightened master, you still have the effect. But we are all fortunate because we have an enlightened master, and we know that the master is enlightened. And, we are the most fortunate of all the people in this world, because we will reach the destination, we will reach the goal without fail. So let's continue to do our seva bit. So Om Amriteshwarya Namah.
Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Aneka Janma Samprapta, Karma Bandha Vidahini, Atma Jnana Pradhanena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Na Guru Radhigam Dattvam, na Guru Radhigam Tapaha, Tattva Jnanat Param Nasti, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Amriteshwaryaye 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 Namaha. Let's begin the Karthika Puja with the mental worship of the feet of Amma, our Guru, our Mother. Kindly sit straight and make sure your vertebral column is straight. And sit in a comfortable posture. Slowly close your eyes. Now slowly gain control of your mind by observing your breathing. Breathing normally, but with full awareness of each and every inhalation and exhalation. Now we'll chant Om 3 times. As we chant Om, imagine the sound of Om to arise from your navel area and visualize the sound to cleanse your body, your mind and intellect and the atmosphere around you through its reverberations or vibrations. Now kindly take a deep breath. Feel the silence. Lesser thoughts in your mind, or the absence of thoughts. And visualize your heart, which is the center of the body. Imagine a beautiful temple inside your heart, filled with light. Imagine you're entering into the temple And as the light fills your whole being, visualize you're also being filled with the qualities of love, of peace, of bliss, and compassion. And in the center of the temple, imagine a beautiful sanctum sanctorum with a beautiful throne or a pedum. And imagine Amma seated on the throne, decorated with gems and jewels. And as you go near her, imagine you are welcoming Amma by prostrating at her feet, touching the feet. And then visualize you are slowly sitting on the right side of the feet. Imagine a lot of puja vessels kept near you to do the Pada Puja, the worship of the holy feet. And at first imagine you're taking a small cushion. While holding it with your left hand, with your right palm, imagine you're lifting Amma's feet and keeping the cushion on the floor. Then visualize you're taking a beautiful golden plate and putting it on top of the cushion. And then putting the feet on the plate. Now visualize you're taking a lighted lamp and waving it 3 times around the feet, followed by the incense stick. And as you wave the incense stick, imagine the beautiful fragrance also. Now visualize a pot of milk and various other pots kept around you, and taking a pot of milk. Then pouring it first the right foot being closest to you, and then the left foot. And as you pour the milk, imagine the beauty of the milk as it flows from the ankles towards the heels and the toes. Also slowly start chanting your mantra or Amma, Amma, not allowing your mind to wander away from the visualization. First the left foot and then the right foot. Now visualize keeping the pot down, and you take another pot which contains ghee or clarified butter, and pouring the ghee, again the right foot and the left foot. Now, imagine keeping the pot down and taking another pot with yogurt and pouring the yogurt. And now honey. And finally, rose water. Visualize keeping that pot down. Imagine you're raising the feet with both your hands, and after placing the feet on your right palm, imagine with your left hand, you're removing the plate filled with the liquids, keeping it down very carefully. Visualize you're taking a beautiful towel and putting it on top of the cushion, and then the feet upon the towel. And imagine you're taking another towel and wiping the feet clean. Imagine you're removing the towel, and visualize also you're lifting the feet with your right palm, and then with your left hand removing the towel, and then putting a nice beautiful shawl on top of the cushion, and then the feet upon the shawl. Now visualize you're taking the red kumkum powder and sandalwood paste, and applying first the sandalwood paste followed by the kumkum powder, just like we apply a dot on the forehead, the right foot and then the left foot. Now visualize a beautiful tree within your heart filled with flowers. Imagine you're taking a handful of flower petals from this tree and offering it into the Amma's feet. Now as we chant the 108 names of Amma, kindly respond with the mantra Om Amriteshwariyai Namaha. And as you chant each mantra, imagine you're taking a handful of flower petals from the tree within your heart and then offering it unto Amma's feet. And first, as we chant the meditation verses, imagine the whole form of Amma from the feet up to the face, sitting in front of you, looking at you, smiling at you. Om Dhyayamo Dhavlavagundhanavatim Tejomayim Nashtikim Snigdhapangavilokinim Bhagavadim Mandasmidashri Mukhim Valsalyamritavarshinim Sumaduram Sankirtanalapinim Shamangi Madhusikta Suktim Amritanandatmikam Ishwarim. Om Amriteshwariyai Namaha.
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 Om Amriteshwariyai
Om Purnam Brahma Swarupanyai Namaha.
Om Amriteshwariyai
Om Satchidananda Murtaye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwariyai
Atma Rama Garganyayai Namaha.
Om Amriteshwariyai
Om Yogilinandaratmane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwariyai
Bhadrabhu Subha
Bhavayai Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Turya Tungasthali-jushe Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Prabha Mandalavidayai Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Durasada-mahaujase Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om
Namaha.
Daktadik-vastukala-adi sarvavachchedarasaye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Sajadiya-vijadiya-swayabhe-nirakrite Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Om Vani-buddhi-vimurgyayai Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Shashwata-vyaktavartmane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Namarubhadi-shunyayai Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Shunyakalpa-vibhudaye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Shadaishwarya-samudrayai Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Durigata-shadormaye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Nitya-prabhuddha-samshuddha-nirmukta-atma-prabha-muche Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Karunya-gulayittayai Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Dakta-yoga-sujuptaye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om
Namaha.
Keralakshmavatirnayai Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Manushastreva-vurbrade Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Dharmishta-sagunananda-damayandi Swayambhuve Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om
Namaha.
Mata-pitarchirachirna-punyapuravalatmane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om
Namaha.
Nishabdirni-garbhadargamadbhudakarmane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Kali
Namaha.
Sri Krishna Sangha-Shyamala-Shyamalatushye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Chidashtavanalabdha-bhargava-kshetra-sambade Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Mrudut-praya-bhrigukshetra-punuruddha-tejase Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Saushilyadi-gunagishta-jangamasthaviraye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Manishya-mrgabhakshiyadi-sarvasam-sevidangreye Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Naisargyadaya-dirtha-snanaklinandaratmane Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Diriddhasa-samarpita-jandase Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Vanyavatra-bhuttana-bhutada-suya-ukshaya Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Samprapta-sarvabhudatma-satma-sattana-bhudaye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Vashikchita-swayam-swandasurad-krishna-vibhudaye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Nandatmja-muga-loka-nityotkandiത-chetase Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Govinda-viprayogadi-davadagdantaratmane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om
Namaha.
Yoga-shoga-sammorcha-morpadavashmane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Saramaya-deveda-susrusha-labdha-buddhaye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Prem-bhakti-bala-krishna-pradurбhava-shargane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Krishna
Namaha.
Loka-mahahlada-dvasta-shogantaratmane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Kanji-chandraka-manjira-vamshi-shobhe-subodhrishe Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Sarvatya-rishikesha-sanidhya-lehre-sprishe Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Susmira-mukha-loka-vismera-utfulla-drishteye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Kanti-yamuna-sparsha-krishta-romange-shteye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Pradikshya-samprapta-devi-rupa-upalabdhe Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om
Namaha.
Pani-padma-subhadvina-shaumanambika-drishe Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Devi
Namaha.
Sadhya-stirodhanatapavadha-chedase Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Deenarodhana-nirghosha-dhiranadikkarnavatmane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Dhanna-vana-dradhi-sarvadaya-dharmane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Gurradhi-samanida-bhaksha-bhosha-varshmane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om
Namaha.
Veena-nishandi-sangeeta-lalada-srunalaye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Bhara-paramananda-lahiri-magdajayatase Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Chandiga-vigraga-darshanalabdha-sharmane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Shandaru-bhamaranjari-bharana-nirvadatmane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Sharada-smarga-seshabha-guna-sambade Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Prabhuvindrayandre Sharado-bhayamurtaye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Gandharagabhine-terenge-datmane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Yandre
Namaha.
Sharada-keli-kallol-sudabde Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Tej-bhrigut-kshetra-daiva-chaitanya-ramase Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Bhuya-pratyavardharshadvi-samskara-rashe Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Apragita-albudhananda-kalyana-gunasandave Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Vaishwarya-virya-kirte-shri-jnana-vairagya-vaishmane Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O
Namaha.
Bhakta-bala-gopala-vesha-bhusha-vibhudaye Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Om Smerasnigdagadakshaye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om
Namaha.
Swiradishadavedaye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om
Namaha.
Jaundalamanchira Vamshigangani Brade Namaha.
Om
Om
Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Bhaktalogagila Bhishta Purna Prinechave Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om
Namaha.
Pidaruna Mahadevi Bhavasura Murtaye Namaha.
Om
Om
Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Bhushambravesha Sri Deepyamanangeshte Namaha.
Om
Om
Amriteshwarye
Prasanamagam Bhojavara Bhaidabhanaye Namaha.
Om
Om
Amriteshwarye
Giridharsana Karnapura Swarnabadi Brade Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Jihvali Namaha Rogi Bibal Sabnadatvaje Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Udogrodam Sanshnada Gauranga Paramurtaye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Ostehim Sa Sura Panadhi Sesha Dharma Vidvishe Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Tyaga Vairagya Maitriyadi Sarvasatbhasana Pushe Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Padasradamano Ruda Dusamskara Om Mushe Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Prema Bhakti Sudha Sakta Sajita Guhajashe Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Sudha Mani Mahanamne Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye
Subhar Sudha Mujhe Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye
Abhridanandvayakya Janaharpadasprije Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye
Ruddhattaviraktaye Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye
Brahmata Bhuvachave Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Utsrishta Bhogi Sangaye Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye
Yogi Sangari Ramsave Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye
Abhinanda Dhanadish Bharma Abhyurdaye Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye
Abhinanda Nishesha Srijangama Srishtaye Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye
Protsahida Brahma Vidya Samradaya Pravataye Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye
Punarasada Srishtadabo Vibhinna Vrtaye Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye
Bhuvyo Gurgula Vasachanol Sugamedase Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Anega Naishtika Brahmachari Nirmatra Vedase Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Shishya Sangramida Suya Projalat Brahmavarchase Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Devasjana Shesha Jeshta Padadrishtaye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Mohandakar Sanjari Lokanigrahi Rojishe Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Tamaklishtamano Vrishtasaprakashubhashishe Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Bhakta Suddhandarangasta Bhadradev Shikhatvishe Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Sapridi Bhukta Bhaktya Ugannarpita Snehazarpishe Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Shishivara Sabha Madhya Dhyani Yoga Vidatsave Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Shaswalogita Acharya Magna Dehendriya Save Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Nisha Punya Pradhananya Baba Dhanajiki Save Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Paraswarya Panaswe Naraga Prapti Lipsave Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
O Dholsava Jalat Kanya Kumari Martya Murtaye Namaha.
Om
O
Amriteshwarye
Yamoha Namanarmagna Bhargukshetroji Shave Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Purasandanada Dvaibhayana Satkuladandave Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Veda Shastra Purana Idihasa Shashwat Bandave Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Bhargukshetra Samunmelit Paradhaivada Dejase Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Devyai Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Premamritanandamaye Nityam Namo Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Premamritanandamaye Nityam Namo Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Premamritanandamaye Nityam Namo Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye
Om Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Om Amriteshwarye Namaha.
Now kindly visualize Amma's whole form and her feet covered with the flowers with which you had offered your worship. Imagine a bowl of sweet pudding and a bowl of fruits kept in front of you. Imagine you're taking the fruit bowls and feeding Amma with your own hand, first a few pieces of the fruit and then a few teaspoonfuls of the sweet pudding. As you feed Amma, imagine Amma relishing your offering. Now can you imagine keeping the bowls down and offering a cup of milk or water to drink for Amma, making her drink out of the cup in your hand, and then wiping her face clean with the towel. Now visualize keeping the cup and the towel down. Imagine you are taking different ornaments, anklets, then rings for the toes, for the fingers, and also for the wrist, necklaces, earrings, nose ring, and finally a beautiful crown. Now visualize you're taking a beautiful mala, garland, and putting it around Amma's neck. Now as I light the camphor lamp, you may also imagine you're lighting a camphor lamp, arati lamp, waving it 3 times, first around the feet, then the whole form and the face while visualizing them and chanting. Om Amriteshwaryaye Namaha. 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 Imagine keeping the lamp down and taking a handful of flower petals, waving it around the flame and offering it unto Amma's feet. Now visualize you're taking a handful of flower petals and praying to Amma to give you the mental courage, to give you the love, to give you the enthusiasm to move forward. Praying to Amma to guide you and always hold your hand and never let it go. And may Amma, wherever I go, let that be a path that leads me towards you. Whatever action I do, let that an act be an act of your worship. And whatever work I do, let that be your seva. And when I speak Amma, let me speak your name and chant your mantra all the time. And when I lie down to sleep, let that become a prostration at thy holy feet. Saying so, imagine you're offering the flower petals unto Amma's feet. Let's now pray for the peace and well-being of all the beings in this world. We'll chant Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu mantra 9 times. And as we chant the mantra, feel the peace, the silence in your heart, going out from your heart to all the beings, just like the rays of the sun. And as the light falls on each and every one of them, imagine they also become more peaceful, more loving, more blissful, and more silent. While imagining so, we'll chant the Loka Samasta prayer. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. 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 Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om. And please continue to meditate for some more time.
Try. Ready?
ശ്രീപാദമാഹാത്മ്യമാർക്കറിയാം ഗുരുപാദത്തിൻ വൈഭവം ആർക്കറിയാം. ശ്രീപാദമാഹാത്മ്യമാർക്കറിയാം ഗുരുപാദത്തിൻ വൈഭവം ആർക്കറിയാം. അമൃതേശ്വരി അമ്മേ ആനന്ദസാരമേ കൈവല്യധാമമേ ഞാൻ നമിക്കാം. അമൃതേശ്വരി അമ്മേ ആനന്ദസാരമേ കൈവല്യധാമമേ ഞാൻ നമിക്കാം. അമൃതേശ്വരി പദം വന്ദേ അമൃതേശ്വരി പദം വന്ദേ. ശ്രീപാദപൂജയ്ക്കു മേലില്ല പൂജകൾ ഇല്ല യോഗാദികൾ സാധനകൾ. ശ്രീപാദ अमृतेश्वरी पादं वन्दे सदा कल्पवृक्षमा प्रेम भक्ति प्रदं ज्ञानमूलम् भक्तिमुक्ति प्रदं सर्वसिद्धि प्रदं श्रीपादतीर्थमे तीर्थसारः भक्तिमुक्तिप्रदं सर्वसिद्धिप्रदं श्रीपादतीर्थमे तीर्थसारः अमृतेश्वरी पादं वन्दे अमृतेश्वरी पादं वन्दे अमृतेश्वरी पादं वन्दे अमृतेश्वरी पादं वन्दे സാക്ഷാലനന്ദനം മൂർത്തിത്രയങ്ങളും വാക്കുകിട്ടാതെ വലഞ്ഞിരുന്നു പിന്നാര് വർണ്ണിക്കും സദ്ഗുരുപാദത്തെ വീണ്ടും നമിച്ചിട ശ്രീപാദമഹാത്മ്യമാർക്കറിയാൻ ഗുരുപാദത്തിൻ വൈഭവ ആർക്കറിയാൻ അമൃതേശ്വരി അമ്മേ ആനന്ദസാരമേ കൈവല്യധാമമേ ഞാൻ നമിക്കാം അമൃതേശ്വരി പാദം വന്ദേ അമൃതേശ്വരി പാദം വന്ദേ അമൃതേശ്വരി പാദം വന്ദേ അമൃതേശ്വരി പാദം വന്ദേ अमृतानन्दमयी माता जगन्माता अमृतानन्दमयी माता ॐ गुरुमाता जगन्माता अमृतानन्दमयी माता Maada Amritanandamayi Maada Om Guru Maada Jaganmada Amritanandamayi Maada Amritanandamayi Mada Om Guru Mada Jaganmada Amritanandamayi Mada पासाङ्कुशधर पाप विनाशन पाहि दयामय गणनाथा
पासाङ्कुशधर पाप विनाशन पाहि दयामय गणनाथा
पासाङ्कुशधर पाप विनाशन पाहि दयामय गणनाथा प्रणवाम्बुजनिलया श्री शिवतनया सुरसेव्या
श्रीकर जय प्रणवाम्बुजनिलया श्री शिवतनया सुरसेव्या
श्री शिवतनया सुरसेव्या
श्री शिवतनया सुरसेव्या
श्री शिवतनया सुरसेव्या पीताम्बरधर भीति विभञ्जन चारुकलेवर विधिवन्द्या
पीताम्बरधर भीति विभञ्जन
शिव सदना आशांकुशधर पाप विनाशन श्रीकर जय प्रणवाम्बुजनिलय श्री शिवतनया सुरसेव्या त्राहि परात्पर भूरि कृपाकर पादङ्गानत हृदयेशा पाहि परात्पर भूरि कृपाकर मादङ्गानत हृदयेशा गणेश्वर विघ्न विनाशक सकदिदायक गणनादा आशांकुशधर पाप विनाशन तनया सुरसेव्या श्री शिवतनया सुरसेव्या श्री शिवतनया सुरसेव्या श्री शिवतनया सुरसेव्या अम्मे अमृतेश्वरी उर्वरं दा उरुनल्वरं दा अमृतेश्वरी अम्मे അമൃതേശ്വരി ഒരു വരം താ, ഒരു നൽവരം താ അമ്മേ. അമൃതേശ്വരി അമൃതേശ്വരി ഒരു വരം താ, ഒരു നൽവരം താ അമൃതേശ്വരി.
Amen.
varam ta, oru nal varam da me, Amriteshwari. As a child needs a mother, as a seed grows beside the tree, deep inside I long to tell you, you mean everything to me.
As a child needs a mother, as the seed grows beside the tree, deep inside I long to tell you, you mean everything to me.
As a child needs a mother, as a seed grows beside the tree, deep inside I long to tell you, you mean everything to me.
As a child needs a mother, as the seed grows beside the tree, deep inside I long to tell you, you mean everything to me.
From the rainfall comes fire of my yearning, you mean everything to me. In my heart I hear you calling, you are holding my destiny. On the path to eternal freedom, you mean everything to me. As a child needs a mother, as the seed grows beside the tree, deep inside I long to tell you, you mean everything to me. As a child needs a mother, as the seed grows beside the tree. Karunalaye Devi Kamida Dayini Katyayani Gauri Sambhavi മന്ത്രം കേട്ടാൽ ഓടിയെത്തും മഹാമായേ. കരുണാലയേ ദേവി കാമിതദായിനി കാത്യായനി ഗൗരി സാംഭവി ശങ്കരി. दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ
दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ
दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ
दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ
दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ
दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ
दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ
दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ
दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ
दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ
दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ
दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ
दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ
दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ
रिश्ते नाते बंधन झूठे सच्चा है बस प्यार तेरा माँ
सच्चा है बस प्यार तेरा माँ
रिश्ते नाते बंधन झूठे सच्चा है बस प्यार तेरा माँ
सच्चा है बस प्यार तेरा
तन मान धन ये भी झूठे माँ तन मान धन ये भी झूठे माँ सच्चा है बस साथ तेरा माँ जय जय 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 माँ दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ भवसागर से हमको बचा लो इस जीवन को धन्य बना लो भवसागर से हमको बचा लो इस जीवन को धन्य बना दो गोद में तेरे हमको बसा लो माँ गोद में तेरे हमको जय जय माँ 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 माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ दे दर्शन माँ देवी माँ अम्बे माँ भवानी माँ जय जय 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 माँ മംഗളം ഹൃദിലസത്തേജോമയീ മംഗളം മൃദുഭാഷിണീ മംഗളം വിജയദാ പ്രേമാകൃതേ മംഗളം വിജയദാ പ്രേമാകൃതേ മംഗളം വിജയദാ പ്രേമാകൃതേ മംഗളം. Madhav Bhavani Amritanandamayi Madhav Amritanandamayi Madhav जय बोलो सद्गुरु माता अमृतानंदमयी देवी की अस्तु मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ओम शांति